Okay, we're here August 16th, 1990 in Walt Sareer's home, continuing the nickname list. But before we do that, let's get this shot of this traveling window display. Do you remember this window display?
Yes.
Walt? Jim Rowland had?
Jim, that's quite a while ago.
Did you ever hear him make his pitch behind
No,
it?
I didn't. I never was that age. I didn't care about buying a window yet.
Let's get a shot of this, Jim. Is that good? Because Pat Rowland
Uncle.
and May told us about this this traveling display, and he apparently invented it, huh? Rowland?
Yes. A lot of guys invented different things. There's sash pulley even, and that's out now. You know, they don't have the sash weights.
Right.
The weight going up and down. I guess you got $2 for the suggestion.
Right.
When I was working there, they had a pocket. See, where they put the weight in. They used a good piece of lumber. They found out they could cut that piece out and put a piece in there just to fit.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I put pockets and pulleys in a sash and a screwdriver. Then I went to the screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
But I got Roman ideas. Well, things were getting a little tough then, and laid off a lot. And
Right.
I wanted a maintenance job. I wasn't satisfied standing in the corner pumping the screwdriver 1 foot.
Yeah.
I went barbering in
So you quit in what year?
1930.
Right.
I was just lacking a month, being there 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Started in June 11th, 1926.
Mm-hmm.
Then I quit. A lot of them thought I did an awful job. Some thought I did the right thing, quitting doing something.
And did you start barbering right away then? I forget.
Yeah, so I went to barber school right away.
Yeah.
Then I worked for different barbers, and in 1933 I started the shop. It was for sale down the other end. I bought it. 2 bits haircut and 15-cent shaves. Burn coal and wood in the stove in the wintertime. Go there about 11 o'clock at night to put a little coal or wood in there to hold overnight a little bit. They shut off the water meter so it wouldn't freeze. Afraid if it freezes and busts, so they put just straight pipe through.
And that was the shop that's just up from what's now the Greystone?
It was a Greystone parking lot.
Right, where there's a lot now.
There's a lot there.
Right.
Then when I went to draft, I was drafted in 1934, and I just locked the shop up and stored the fixtures, and then Billy Ratke, is Ben Turp, the one that Lloyd asked me.
Okay, we need to stop.
Then why don't you pick up anything on the head in there that you thought was...
Well, I think we've got most of that on the other session we did with you about the whole barbershop thing.
Yes.
So I think we should just go back to our nickname list here with Elmer, what's his last name? Lumnus. Jumbo.
Jumbo.
What do you remember about him, or how did he get that name?
I really don't know neither. He was one of the old timers at Anderson's.
Mm-hmm.
We started with Anderson, I think in Hudson even. Could have.
Mm-hmm. You didn't know him, though?
I knew him, yeah.
Oh, you did know him?
His kids, he got a daughter in town yet.
Fiddler?
Al Lineker, single guy. Always weekends was a good drunk.
You play the fiddle?
No, a lot of BS. And Gravity lives alone yet.
Is that right?
He's a year older than I am.
Never got married?
Never got married, no. Women never bothered him. All the money he's got, he watches black and white TV, sits on a kitchen chair, no comfortable chairs, he batches it. He lived with his brother for a while. His brother died.
Well, that's how he prefers it, I guess.
He just
No?
gripes about everything. Nothing to do, much.
Tamarack.
Bill Linicki, that's his brother. He lost his leg in the first war up to here.
Hmm.
A wooden leg Tamarack.
That's where it came from.
Yeah. He never got married neither. He never bothered. I guess their sister once in a while. He's dead too. But Bill is living yet. I mean, Al is living. Sister comes down, I guess.
But Bill's gone?
Yeah, been gone quite a while. Then Boots LaBar. Boots, he always had a pair of boots on, I guess. Big guy, he worked at a prison.
Ed LaBar, that is. Right.
Yeah, Ed LaBar, yeah. Snuffy Al Lair, he was a contractor. He had a bunch of horses in them days. Graded roads, plowed snow with the horses, and dumped wagons. And I don't know where he got the name of Snuffy.
Was he older than you then?
Oh yeah, he's dead now. He's
Yeah.
been quite an old. And Penny, Archie Lair, he was some relation to him. And
But these are from another generation then. These are older.
yes. And the same way with Skintz Lair, Rhino Lair. They were brothers to Snuffy. Then Gilly Lair was a son of Albert Lair.
Obviously short for Gilbert.
Yeah.
Gilly, right? Got these Larsons.
Meyer and Larson, they call him Joe.
Why?
He always went by that. Could have been his middle name. Grant Larson, Lightning. He was slow moving. Was never moved fast. he was.
Was he Myron's brother or what relative?
No relation.
No relation.
Then Mike Larson or Magnus Larson. He lived the other end. His daughter went with Slab for about 40 years. Mike.
For 40 years?
Yeah, must have been good 40 years. Every girl he had, a boyfriend she had about, and yes, she kept house for her dad. I never remembered the mother. She must have been dead a long time.
Mm-hmm. And they never married?
No, never. Mike had Thelma for a daughter, but she never married. She lives up here in an apartment yet. Nice looking gal.
What was her name?
Thelma Larson. Laboon, Warren Lawson, he's an electrician. I don't know where he really got that name. Jim Lynn, just what it says, Jughead. He'll never grow up. He's about 40-some years old. Hell of a good guy, but you can't depend on him. He said he's going to meet you somewhere. So don't depend on it. He was a commander for the Legion. He was a good commander during the meeting, run the meeting, but to do anything, he's in our drill team too. He'll never grow up.
Who gave him the name Jughead? Do you know?
Big head.
Do you know who gave it to him, though?
No, I don't.
No.
Probably Carlson Grocery. Probably Russian. At the Carlson Grocery, Jughead worked there as a kid, delivering and store, stocking shelves. I wouldn't have it past. A Russian did that. Spad Lee, or Richard Lee. Spad, I really don't know neither. He got an FBI for a long time. He retired here a while back. He's Ace is Oscar Lee. I suppose that Ace is from Oscar. I don't know.
Hard to know.
Whitey Lee, he was kind of a white-complected guy. I think he had the shortest name in town. 3 letters in the first name and last name.
Roy Lee.
Roy Lee. He when he had a drink, they used to call him stir stick too. I don't know why that ain't there. He'd have a highball. He'd keep stirring it so much the ice would be, ice be gone before. He's always stirring. And Lubert's Lightning Liquor, Triple L, he sold liquor.
He was a bootlegger.
Yeah, he was a bootlegger.
Ed Lubert.
Yeah,
Tell me a little bit about him.
they got him on the bowling team. He put on his bowling shoes at home, walked to the bowling alley with him. He drank a lot of his booze too.
What was he like? What kind of a character was he?
Not very dependable.
But made pretty good bootleg? Pretty good moon?
Well, they claim he watered it down too much. Same with Cappy. They always said they watered it down quite a bit.
Well, it went a little further that way.
What's that?
I said it went a little further that
Oh,
way.
yes, he made more money. Joe Lascarbo, Paula, he was a big guy. He wrestled at fairs. Frank Singelman used to live in the same house he did. Years ago, he wrestled at fairs always. Paula, he was a big fellow. Big hands. He worked at the foundry.
Mm-hmm.
They worked hard there at the foundry with them police. Paula, he mostly won. He wasn't too cagey, but he was the bull strength was his part.
Right.
And then this Bobo, his brother Howard Lascarbo, he's just a little guy. He didn't do too much. Then Everett Lascarbo, Wimpy, he ate a lot of Wimp. There was a Wimpy, the comics too. There was a Wimpy.
That's right.
Wind him up, him. And Kenneth Lotson, Guba, he got killed in one of the first ones, not the first one, World War II. He was just a little guy. He liked to mix with the boys too.
Yeah. Oh, Guba, what the devil does that stand for?
I don't know if they're Norwegians. If that was a lot of times they had some name from Germans or Norwegians or Swedes the guy got.
Mm-hmm.
Like Patchy there, Patchy Mariana. He was just a slow walking guy, just never in a hurry. He died kind of young.
That's William Mariana.
And then Abby, I bet he went with that girl he's got now, 35 years, hasn't married her, he's retired. He still gets hell for not marrying her.
Still hasn't?
No, he hasn't married her. I don't think he ever will. He's retired. At his age, I don't think he will. Yeah,
Is that Patchy's brother, or are they related? John Mariana and Abby?
Patchy's boy,
His son.
son.
Mm-hmm.
And Prince Magnuson and E, the next one, they're brothers. E married my sister, but Prince, he could fix autos. He'd rather patch up something, or work on an auto and get it to run instead of put new on.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty good in fixing things, but you couldn't depend on him too much neither. The brothers are altogether different. He was a night cop in town here for a while. He got held up in the post office one night. They gagged him and had him all tied up. Took stamps and money.
When was that? Remember?
I think it's in one of them magazines there. We look, I get the date there.
That was Eric
Eric.
Magnuson.
There's Clarence Moan, Nunna. I don't really. He was a kind of a bookkeeper and did things, figured out income tax. And his brother, Marv Moon, Muggy, I don't know. I asked his son how he ever got that name. He don't know neither. Muggy. And Vernon Moon Punk, he was a lot younger than his brothers. Probably they call him the Punk,
Right.
being the youngest of the brothers.
What about Neil Moon? Poik.
Poik. That's Muggy's kid. I don't know how Poik ever got that neither. Or Vernon, his uncle Punk. Some of them just somebody say you Punk or somebody started or Neil or I don't know. And sub is for Summers Morehouse. I suppose that's just for summer. Mr. Clean, Howard Montgomery, he run the dry cleaning and the laundry. He still goes by Mr. Clean.
Was he about your age then? Howard McCoy?
Yeah, I think he's still younger. He lives right next to my sister by that station.
Where was the cleaners?
You notice them buildings across from Legion, they're jacking one up? Not the one that's jacked up, but the one next to it. It was the dry cleaners and the laundry there. They're supposed to take them out of there to make a parking lot. And he had that for years. And then he started driving bus for the city bus of St. Paul. There he got a little pension out of it anyway. Otherwise he was for himself all the time.
Right.
Yeah, these big companies, big dry cleaners run them out, and then now it's so much wash and dry too. Just like these years ago, a pair of pants I had, I get everything dry cleaned in the barber shop. Wilmer Miller, the Duke, he thought he was pretty good, but he wasn't much. And his brother Itty, I don't know how Einer got that name. And George Miller, call him Otts. I don't know how they're all brothers here. And Laver, Sherman Miller, he didn't do much. He swamped for Pawnees a lot. Pawnees sent him for a case of beer down the basement. He said, and keep whistling all the time you're down there, so you wouldn't be drinking. Otherwise, you'd be poking every once in a while they'd catch him pushing a few bottles or a case of beer out the window, even stealing from Pawnee. And his folks, his dad had 7 boys and 1 girl. And the mother died when the youngest one was just a baby. And the old man wasn't much good. He fixed the gasoline engines and sawed wood, and used to call him Dirty Jack. And the boys didn't have a place to live, and they built a shack on the hill. They let the old man stay with him if he threw the tools out of his overhauls and that, and be halfway. And them kids lived on the hill. I know Sherman, labor, they wouldn't let him in a lot of times till they got home because he was hungry. He ate all this stuff before the boys. They had tough going and they weren't working steady. And
where was the shack?
all down. You know anyone living down the south end? Just about to the south end. Before you turn down, before you go to Clyde's there.
Yeah.
Before you go there, up on a hill, little bank. They had just a shack. They lived there. The boys, the girl and Willard, the youngest boy, and all 7 boys were in the service, and they never had a write-up. You know, if there was a family a little more noted or something, they'd got a write-up. But I always said that they should give them a write-up because boys were all in the service. They all turned out pretty good.
They all came back.
Yeah, they all came back. labor. He took 2 months extra, and then he got thrown in a brig for a while because he didn't report to come back when he was supposed to. Now they all came back. And, Prince, he always claims he got hurt, but I think he was trying to get a little pension there. He walked with a cane sometimes, and when he go by the pension place.
Who is this?
Prince Miller. Where is he? The Duke, I mean.
Dottie, you're on now.
Dottie.
Unless you had something more to say about the...
No, not much. They just had a rough time, all the boys. The youngest boy didn't stay here. He lived with his uncle in Woodbury. I don't know where the girl lived.
Mm-hmm. What was the youngest one's name?
Willard. It was Wesley. His was name. They called him Pete. Then it was Itty. Itty's down south. The only one living is Itty and the youngest boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to Dottie, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Joe McGonigal. He worked at a prison, and he got to be postmaster here. We got not a lot of pictures. There's a lot around town. I got a couple of his pictures, and we be in the post office window. He'd draw a picture of the Congregational Church, or he'd draw the village hall. If he drawed a picture of you, you'd look like you.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was.
So you're a natural talent.
Yeah, a national talent. Mm-hmm. He was only when I went in the service before that. He was the only guy, a Navy man in World War I around here. Mm-hmm. And he told me to get in a Navy, and I could make money cutting hair because the Army had their own barbers. Mm-hmm. I mean, civilian barbers mostly. Mm-hmm. I made good money always. I always had enough of beer or little drinks. I never left my clippers or scissors or comb get away from me. I always could get someplace and cut hair. Right. On the ship. I cut hair. And he was quite a boxer, I guess, when he was young too.
Dottie was.
Yeah. His daughter, maybe, if you're acquainted around St. Paul, Joan Showalter, she was on the council for years. She got a little joint at Wilson, Wisconsin now. Billy, and the boy, he's in real estate. He plays in the band yet, police band and that.
And how did he get the name Dottie?
I really don't know.
Which is a woman's name, usually
yeah,
short
it's a
for
woman's
Dorothy.
Name. Dottie, they all call him. His right name isn't Joe neither. It's Tom. I went to see him in the hospital. Asked for Joe. There's no Joe here. We got a Tom. I said, where's he from? Bayport. I said, that's the one I want to see. There's different ones.
If you'd said Dottie, they would have looked at you a little funny,
yeah.
too.
And Chopsy Morissette. He's my boy's age. I don't know how he... Chopsy. They always call him Chopsy. Some kid named him that, probably something. Or
That's Larry.
Larry.
How do you say the last name?
Morissette.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Myers, Smiley, he was always smiling, always a big smile. Nice, easy going. Just died a few years ago, too.
What did he do? What was his...
He was run lumber yards. He went out a Spooner. He ran it for years and years. I guess that's all I ever knew he did. I guess he started down here as kind of a second man, you know, and then he moved. See, Anderson's kind of owned it as what was it? Bayport Home Company. They had some lumber yards around one time. Then the Lamberts bought some and sold it to different. They were in the lumber yard business quite a bit when they was making windows even. I don't know how then they just too much trouble, I guess. And we come to Shishi, William McManus, left-handed carpenter. He put everything left-handed for a door or anything. He got his nickname as worked for Sid Butler, the meat company, the butcher shop. And them days there were no phones, not too many. They sent the driver out to take orders for what you want, groceries or meat. And they send the boy out, and he'd take the orders and come back and tell him what he wanted, and he'd deliver it in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Sid used to say, what did she say? She. Stayed right with him.
He stuttered.
Yeah, he stuttered. He didn't in later years, but he said, then he was a carpenter too. He did a lot of carpenter work. Guys, you know, he lived in that house 40, 50 years. And he died here a few years ago. And it never had a cement floor in the basement. And the trimmer on the windows weren't done.
Even though he was a carpenter.
Even though he was a carpenter.
It's a classy case.
And a shoemaker lets the kids go barefoot. The barber leaves the hair, the kid gets along. Yeah. His wife was a sister to Q Clements, the banker's mother. Happy, the grumpiest man in Bayport. Len McPherson. Never happy. Crabby, he was the hardest guy to get money out of, to borrow money. I don't think he lost a car or lost anything in the bank, because he was just tight. I got a picture of him and Coop, and the girl lives across here, Lois Seidler, in an old wicker basket tied with string. Died at all kind of money. God, he was a tight guy.
And what did he do for a living?
Run the bank.
Oh, he was at the bank.
The bank.
Right.
The bank, I think Happy and Jim Rowland and some of them Rothschild didn't get along with him too good sometimes, because he's so tight he wouldn't give a guy a chance. I know I wanted a house. It wasn't a very good house either, but I wanted a place to live when I came back from the service. He wouldn't borrow me the money. He said, no good. I'm glad he never let me have it. Then I bought this a lot, and I just had to drive practically on the sidewalk to get to the garage. And so I happened to buy it. I finally talked to that woman selling me the lot. I said, I'll buy it. I went to Happy, and I said, can I get $100 to a lot of money? A lot of money then. I said, can I get $100? I bought that lot next to Stevens. Oh, that's the way you do business. You just buy a lot and then come on and borrow money from me. I said, geez, I was in one very good mood that day, I guess. I said, okay, I don't care. I know where I can get it. He followed me outside. He said, okay, you can. I'll borrow it to you. You know, he always give you the needle. Like Legion dues, they ain't really due till the first of the year. We used to like to collect them in September and October before the holidays and get it done. I went in the bank and I said, Coop, I got you on a list for Legion dues. Okay, come here, I'll write you a check. So I wrote a check. I started out at the bank. That was when it was down there. Happy said, what about my Legion dues? I said, they aren't due till the first of the year. I'll come on back and I'll pay you. You know, but if I said the dues, they ain't due till the first. He'd give you a rough time. You know? Yeah. I didn't care about a rough time that day. Gestapo, Eric Markowitz, he was a policeman and a weed man and cutting weeds and taking care of the streets, and big German guy, Gestapo. He said, where you? How's that? You got Pittsburgh Pittsburgh license on your car? He said, I live in Pittsburgh. Oh, you know, he was he wasn't too smart. He cut weeds. Damn it, he never got his pension. He was cutting the lawn and died before he got his first pension check.
Oh.
There was a car dealer in Stillwater, Munson, He got Eddie Noreen to go with him to Chicago to pick up 2 used cars. And they got down there, they forgot to bring a dealer's license with them. So once, he was a kind of slipshod guy anyway. We don't need no license. They come through Illinois, come through Wisconsin, got in Minnesota by that carpet shop there. Muckowitz picked them up. It's just about home. Gestapo. Gene McManus, Owen. I don't know where he got that name. He run the Greystone, him and Howard Ryland.
Uh-huh.
He was a hot-headed Irishman. Good guy, though. He was, but he'd get mad. He was mad.
Is that right? Never get mad at you?
No. But Doc Bell could get him mad. Oh, God, he could get him mad. And Doc was so fast, like Peanuts, his brother. And Doc would be fooling, and Owen would take a swing at him. He meant to hit him, too, but he'd just miss him, you know. Doc would just... They tormented him a lot.
Did they?
Yeah. Knew he got mad. Robert McPherson, that's Happy's son, youngest son. A wedge head. Got a head like a wedge. Narrow. His brother's had the big farm out here. Remember you heard of John McPherson? He was way over 100 cows he was milking. All that DNR land he rented. Extra. He farmed big. He had, like, I don't know how many hired men. Just last winter he sold half the cows, and in the spring he sold the other half. So he just but Wedgehead, he was a deputy sheriff. He was a deputy. Harvard Marine Senior, 10 gauge. He always shot with a 10 gauge shotgun, double barrel too. You know, that'd be dangerous. You get both them barrels at one time.
Knock you over.
Yes. Shady, his oldest son, Sherman. I don't know how he got Shady. But he was a highway patrol for quite a few years. But he didn't like that. He went inspecting trucks for the state then. He got it. Then Harpo, Leonard, he was a salesman for Anderson. He was the dark Swede. The other three brothers was all dark. Harpo, he died just a few years ago. Harpo, I really don't know. Harpo Marx, I guess, probably. He was dark. And Snergy Noreen and Eddie Noreen. He was postmaster for a while. He did
Snergy? Snergy?
He was. They thought it.
What's that mean?
You know what a guy is? He gets snergy.
Oh.
Like it horny.
No.
His wife thought it was Snergy. What's that cartoonist? That Mortimer Sturge. He had her believing that's what he was. Eddie, he drove semi then he was drinking. He had to lose his job or quit drinking, so he quit for a week, I guess. But he drove semis. Never drove semi, and said he drove and took off and through the mountains. You know, them California, some of them places where your brakes don't hold, you get running them sand traps. God, I don't know how he had trouble backing up always. He had to get other guys to back up. And Arvid Jr., Puttifaw, asked old Victor Wick, he's from Sweden one time, what's Puttifaw? A high-toned Swede.
Is that right?
Putty, he's big. He worked at Anderson's, but he was a good cabinet man or finishing windows samples of that. But now he works for Pete Miller. He retired from Anderson's. If he can drive a truck, he's happy. He's like Eddie.
And all these Narines are related then?
Yeah, see, 10 gauge, and then the rest of it is his boys.
Uh-huh.
And then he had one daughter, Betty. Was she the youngest? Yeah, I guess she was the youngest. And Open Heart, Jimmy Nelson got the bowling alley. They named him Open Heart, but he ain't so open heart. He charged for everything. Or Crooked Nail, they used to call him too. He had he roughed in this house. And he roughed in, he built a lot of houses. And see, Pawnee was his father-in-law. And then he got in the bowling alley. The boys didn't want it. Bag ears or mowers didn't want nothing to do with the bowling alley. So Jim run it. Now his son runs it. Jim is retired.
Well, what about Muff? We jumped over Jeff Narine.
Oh, Jeff is Arvid Jr.'s Buttifoss boy. He drives for Pete Miller. One of the men there said when Jeff comes to work, when he goes home, he's cleaner than when he comes to work. You know, he'll have a pair of white coveralls or light. He never gets dirty. The Smitty, he would run the rock crusher for Pete, and he was greasy and dirty, you know, laying the ground. But it seemed like Jeff, you see him driving the truck, you think he's probably an office boy. You know, some stay cleaner. When I get at work, I got to get on my knees and get my hand. I can't work with gloves on. Some work with gloves.
But they call him Muff. Why is that? Do you know?
Duff.
Oh, Duff.
Duff.
Oh, I see.
It's Duff.
That's Duff, okay.
I don't know if it's some guy or Duff. He just started driving truck when he got out of school, and he just stayed there. It's like one of these, the digger, Johnson. He got out of high school, went on the section, he's still on the section. Now he's pretty far up in the section, but the section was kind of a low-paid job one time. And then
What do you mean by the section?
Putting new ties in the railroad.
All right, section gang?
A section gang. He was with the section gang ever since he got out of high school. Only job he ever had. Great big guy, back, dark. But well, that wasn't much of a job one time. But now they got these cars on the railroad, the old section cars that pump. But now he's. And Leah Nelson, Willie Lump Lump. He was kind of a friend of Hewling's. Kind of a fat guy. He didn't get to do much.
You don't know why Willie Lump Lump?
Kind of fat, I guess. Wrinkles.
Several lumps.
Yeah, all over. Turning Ness, Leroy. God, that's Lupin. That's all I ever had to look today to see was Leroy. I don't know.
Lupin.
Really. Lupin. Was that named after some ball player or some bum or something? And his brother Turney, he was a big fat guy, Vernon Ness. I really don't know there. And daughter, Elmer Nelson. Gosh, I don't know where he got his name, because he's been on relief and worked, and he never worked. He lives in Holton. Don Otterman, Bird Legs. He's a big, tall, slim guy, skinny legs, skinny guy. He's always monking with video or something like that. He used to fix washing machines for where the carpet shop was for Allers. He never did much, but now his wife is a deputy sheriff, and he stays home, takes care of the kids, and sharpens the saw once in a while. He don't do much. God, he isn't old either.
How old is he?
50-some.
Oh.
One time I thought that was an old man, but I don't think it is now. I got a daughter, 53. And Barrelhead, Dwayne Olson, his brother works the bank. He's a minister now. got 10 kids. Lives in, oh, he had a big head too. Barrel head. What's his right name? Dwayne. Yeah, and Squeaky, his uncle, Eric Olson, they came from Sweden. Oh, in the 30s, something. Eric and Pete. And, Pete was Barrelhead's daughter. Eric was his dad. He had a squeaky voice.
He had a squeaky voice?
Yeah, he had a real squeaky voice. Squeaky.
Okay, we get a tape change here. We were on Squeaky, and you were telling me he worked at the foundry?
Yeah, he worked at the foundry till Anderson sold it. And then he went to Anderson. They had an option to go to Anderson's when Anderson sold it.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked in that, making pockets and pulleys for Anderson's windows. And then they pour that hot hot iron. Boy, that was hot. You had to have leather gloves and leather gloves and aprons so you wouldn't get burnt. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them got burnt anyway. It'd be an awful more safety if they did that now, I think.
And these were the pulleys that were used in the Anderson windows?
That's all they did.
Made their own pulleys?
Pulleys and sash weights.
And where was the foundry?
Right south of the printing office now.
Across the tracks?
Across the road.
Oh, just across the road?
Yeah,
oh, right
just
across
before you go across the tracks.
Right in that corner there?
Yeah, that whole corner. That's one they're going to tear down now.
Right. And who else worked at the foundry?
Paulo Lascarbo, the big guy at Rassel.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Reynolds from Oak Park. He was pretty good size. There was quite a few from Stillwater. Chet Bonneman lives right, well, he's dead now, just a kitty corner from me. Stuttered all the time. He could sing good though. But he stuttered as much. He worked there. That's all that some of them guys did. Mm-hmm. I can remember that. Some went to Anderson's, some didn't go to Anderson's. Mm-hmm. But most of them went to Anderson's to work. Then there's the machine shop where they ground the pulleys and put the hole in the sash weight if it wasn't little trimmings there. And they did most of their own work. There was good machinists there they had.
You said one time there was somebody threw water on the...
Yeah, one of them Swedes from Sweden, Lars's relation, it threw water and God, they blew part of that wall out and quite a few got burnt that time. Quite an explosion.
Threw it on the hot metal.
Hot metal, white. And iron just gets white, when it gets... They had them big furnaces there carrying that hot metal by hand, They didn't have no... it was all bulwark.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look back now, it could have been a lot safer, a lot of that stuff handled. Squirt, Dick O'Brien, he's just a little short Irishman. He was one of the draftsmen this time, Anderson's. Mm-hmm. He's retired now, too. Gosh, so many, I look, I kind of forget about them. They're dead or retired. Mm-hmm. Slacky Palmer, Lester, he married my wife's youngest sister. He was that slick old gum they used to have years ago, big long stick. He was always chewing gum, and he was a softball pitcher. He was a salesman for Anderson's. Ended up, but he lives in Michigan. But Slacky, he was quite a guy. quite a softball player. And Zod, his brother, Russell Palmer, he was a superintendent down at Anderson last. And he was quite a softball player too, a pitcher, both pitchers. But he made a lot of moonshine for Bonnie and delivered it. Him and Asp.
Zod, now that's
Zod, I think he was on the ground so much that fell or something. Sleeping or so, I suppose. I don't know just how he. And Bob Parent, that's a cousin of my wife, half soul. He was a shoemaker. Half soul.
Where was the shoe shop?
Where Cup and Saucer is, right next to the barber shop, right there. He was there when I was there. Well, he did a lot of things. Bob didn't stick to one job too much. He worked for a shoe store, and he went in business here, and he worked for New Brighton, and he ended up janitor at the school at last. And a little short Frenchman from Somerset. Al Payette, oily. He was a greasy-looking guy always. Some people's skin. He was a French Indian or something.
Yeah, with a name like Payette.
Payette. Gam, Grandel Peterson. He was one of the machinists down to the foundry there. I don't know what Gam really. And Bert Peterson, his brother, Biff. He worked in the maintenance down at Anderson's. Biff, he was a big guy. He died young too, didn't he? Then Kenny Peterson, he lives right here now. That's their Gam's son. Weak Eyes. Oh, you got that when the Liars contest. We had a Liars contest and a marble tournament every year for a while. And he didn't get the biggest liar. He was on the ticket though. Dobb, his brother, Richard Peterson. A few years ago, he lost his leg about here, poor circulation, below his knee. And Eddie Noreen and Earl Scullin, his brother-in-law, and Earl Scullin and Dobb was drinking beer just before the Legion parade. The bartender said, "Gosh, where's them guys putting all that beer? A hollow leg?" Eddie said, "Yeah." Eddie went over by Dobb, pulled his leg off, his shoe and all. He says, "Here, fill her up." Then one night I was to the VFW out in Stillwater. They had a supper and that. And Dobb was sitting back to me with his wife, my back that way, and a speaker. Gee, it was a lot of noise and talking back at me. I thought, gosh, why don't they shut him up when you've got a speaker? Pretty soon the speaker said, "I think that somebody needs help there." And Dobb had kind of a heart spell or something. And they grabbed him and they took the chair. You can carry a person right on a chair out. And they got right back of us a ways and facing some women, and his leg slipped off. Jesus, the women squealed and hollered. Got down here, the ambulance, and then a guy was carrying the leg, and Corky Green says, "What, did he lose his leg or something?" He didn't know. When you see a leg off with a shoe and sock on it, just kind of, he just sticks his stub in it, holds that way with suction or something. Yeah, he kind of stirred it up that supper that night for a while.
But he survived.
Oh yeah, he came out of it good. He's playing golf in a golf tournament there a couple Sundays ago. Then Cottontail, Peter Cottontail, Don Peterson. He was a little kind of a brat when he was young, hopping around all the time. That's where you got the Peter Cottontail here. Raymond Peterson, Ray Peterson, Vinegar Pete. His dad had a grocery store. He worked in the grocery store. Still call him Vinegar Pete. He lives at the other end. He's retired. Vinegar Pete. Lawrence Pohl, gosh, he was young too when he died. Toad. He looked like a little toad. He was fat, round face. He was an easy guy to shave. Face was just round, not a wrinkle or anything. And Robert Pohl, Orbs. I don't know where he got that name either. And Wilfred Poyer, Pud Poyer. Pud, I don't know just where he got that. He was always into something or Pud. I don't know. Lawton Porter, Gumshoe. He was a cop in town nights. And when I had that barber shop and I had coal and wood there, I'd give him free haircuts if he'd keep that fire going for me nights. And he'd go in there and fall asleep sometime. Or the oil station across the street. And Rice and I think Linicky and some of them caught him one night sleeping. He took a star and pinned it on the back of his coat on the back side. If you ever could find out who they did that, but he didn't. Or he was a strict kind of.
When was he cop here? What years?
It was in the 30s. After I had that wood and coal house. I started in 33. Could be 35, 36 hours. Gumshoe. He didn't like that name either.
No?
No, that didn't go over good. Hey, Gumshoe. George Quinlan Pete. He was a depot operator. His dad was a depot operator for years down there. They had two depots here then. One by Anderson's and one up south of Feather. Old Frank Moyes, he brought up Sweeto. Was his nephew. He had a teletype. Old guy in a typewriter, 2 fingers. He had to be going his old pipe, hat all crooked. Coat wouldn't be buttoned, shirt be buttoned wrong, and it didn't bother him. And all at once that telegraph would start going. Then he'd grab a pencil and I can remember, he seemed old to me all the time out here. He backed me with a house. That time I lived out by the printing office. That's right after I was married. This guy said Haywire Burge owned it. He said I could live in it as long as I wanted to. He wasn't married. He stayed in the boarding house. Then his sister got a divorce from her husband, Carrie Herring, from Bill Herring, and she wanted to keep house for him, so she kept the house down. I didn't have a place to go. And I had old John Larson had a place there. He wanted $800 for it. Outdoor toilet. I could get that, and this old Moyes came to me one day. He said, I heard you can buy that house, but I said, I ain't got no money. I tell you what to do. I'll buy it for you, and you give me $15 a month, and that's all I want. So that's the way I was trying to find a contract. I got the deed yet, but I can't find if I had any, just paid him, I don't think I signed much with him. And the house didn't have no toilet, outdoor toilet, so I had a big woodshed, so I knocked the toilet out, and when I had an extra sink at the sink I took out of the barber shop when I closed that time, before I went into service, I made a bathroom. I put a sink and a stool in it. And I had Louis Anderson build some kitchen cabinets for $25. And Lubert's Lighting Liquor, he was broke then, I guess, needed money. 25 cents a foot, he dug the sewer in. I don't know what and then I went to service, and I had Kleinsmith putty the windows too. The guy that got burnt so bad. And he puttied the windows, so I said, I suppose I'll never use his house again, Carlson. So I went to service, and they wanted, my daughter died. My wife lived with her folks. She didn't want to live there alone then. And everybody wanted to buy the house. Gosh, I didn't know what to sell. Gosh, I had $800. I had the best I suppose I had about half paid for. And so we decided to sell it. And my wife said we should get $2,500. Then she wrote back one time, I was offered $2,000. I said, sell it. Next time she wrote back, I sold it for $2,500. Gee, I thought I suppose I had about half. I had some of that money. Then that's when I built the basement out of it. Started, and then the house was sold to Button-Nose Roland. I'll come to him. His wife bought the house after he got killed. I was supposed to meet Button on the train. My daughter was dying. I was supposed to meet him. He says, stay, get a 10-day extension, and we go back together. I said, no, I'd rather say that extension vacation when she's dying. She only had 3 months to live. So meet me at the train at Farragut, Idaho. I said, okay. And then the next morning I picked up the paper. I just happened to look at it, and here was Gordy Rowland killed at the Ogden, Utah train wreck. I thought, God, if I'd have waited, I'd have been in that train wreck. They're all in the dining cars, and they don't have no protection bars like another car. They're like a convertible, practically.
Yeah.
And then his wife bought the house for my wife. And I came back and I bought this lot for $150. And Walters wanted $100 to dig a basement with a drag line. Then a guy had some horses out in the country. He said he'd do it for $50. My kids, I tell her now, $50. Jew, about $50. I said, gosh, I saved that $50. I bought a hot water heater out of that deal.
Yeah.
And he dug the basement. And I lived in the basement about 2 years. Then I had Nelson rough it in. And that's how I happened to. There was quite a few basements after I built one. I saw one down in St. Louis. A guy living in the basement. I got an idea. But then later years, they only had so many years you could live or they wanted. So that's how. Where was I here?
We were at George Quinlan, Pete.
Oh yeah, Pete. Yeah.
Is this the same Quinlan? It seemed to me the Rowlands said they were related to Quinlan.
Yeah, they were related to the Quinlans. There was Pete, and he got married kind of late in life, and Peter George, and Dan Quinlan was an old maid. A bachelor. He bummed around a lot. He finally got a job he thought he'd work that summer to Anderson, then he'd go out west sometime. And he said he never made enough money to Anderson's to go out west. Joking, But he was a bachelor. I remember my kids couldn't go to that Anderson's Elko picnic because it was just Anderson's employees. But I could give my kids $5, and go somewhere else spend money. If he couldn't go with the other kids, and Dan, he was an old bachelor, and he'd give his tickets to my kids. Boy, they were the happiest kids because they could go with the other kids that knew down there. Dan, he said he never made enough money to get on. He told Fred that one day too. He was completely bald, just a string around here. He always gave me a full price for a haircut, never kicked.
Is that right?
And a haircut every week. Him and Pete, every week. Sackerson was every 10 days. Some people, you didn't have to have many customers then because they did it so regular. Some every 2 weeks. Some got a shave every time they got a haircut. And a tonic. Paulo Escarpa, he always got a tonic with his haircut. Some barbers had a nickel cheaper if you didn't shave their neck. That was 10 cents, but I charged 50, and I thought, gosh, they saved aside. So many of them years ago shaved around. And, Quinlans, they were good-hearted Irishmen. Dad was an old captain on a riverboat here one time, and he got to be depot operator. Then Pete took the job. That's their relation to Rowlands, somewhere's back there. I don't know. Knut, Otto Radke, big old German. He's got them boys. He's got 5 boys. Had 6 and a daughter. Billy died during the war. He got kidney infection. Sticky, that's Lowell. I don't know really. I asked Bussy today, where in the hell do you guys get that name? Sticky and Bussy. Well, Sticky didn't know. Bussy, I was busy, he says. Worry, George Radke, he said he was always worrying. Big guy. He was one of the fastest putty men that Anderson's had, him and Wiki. Wiki was a little guy and Worry was a big, tall guy. They could do more putting and good putting than Anderson's, the fastest, best paid men. When they puttied winners, they don't even putty them no more.
All right.
Back putty them a little.
Another break.
You can make, in 8 hours, you can make 10 hours and 20 minutes if you produce so much. 10 hours and 20 minutes, that's the most they let you make in 10 hours. Otherwise, it's for the company.
I see.
Some of them guys get that jackpot every day. They can, some of them young husky guys. Wiki was a little short guy. He had to do a lot of reaching for them big winners, but Worry, hell, he could. It was fun to go and watch them. Some of them, they do it. Well, anything, if you get used to it.
Yeah, they were real pros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a guy skinning, filleting a fish. I make an awful job. I don't have a fillet knife in the first place.
Yeah.
Ready?
Okay, we were to Worry.
Yeah. I tell you all about Worry. He was one of the best puttiers they had there, and the highest paid there for quite a while until he went out. Well, then Pee-Pee Ryland. He used to wet his pants once while he was drinking. Pee-Pee. He had his name. I used to call him Pee-Pee all the time. Just right. It was like Carl or Pete. Didn't make him.
It didn't matter to him.
No, he just laughed. He was easygoing. And Nick Hard Ryland. Nick was their dad. Edison Howard's dad. He was an old lumberjack, old wrinkled guy, little guy. Like Nick. Tweet. Don Rich. I don't know just how he just died here. 51 years old.
Is it Tweet or Tweed?
Tweet. Tweed, I think.
It says Tweed here.
Yeah, Tweed. Charlie. Then Virgil Richard, his dad, his right name, what they called him Olio, was same age as me. He was 3 days older. He died. That's the only person I knew that close to my age. Virgil. He didn't like to be called Virgil. The right name. He didn't like. He was the school janitor at last. And at their wingless wedding, he was painting toenails with real paint. He was right up.
And we got the Rollins coming here.
Howard Blinky. That's Button-Nose's brother. He's still living in Chicago somewhere. He made an army career out of it afterwards, but him and the boozer, they used to get drunk, and I think Blinky is behaving now. His wife got him tuned up a little. He didn't get married till late in life. And Irving, his brother, Nutty, that's Noble's boys. You saw Noble Roll, he was a foreman. Nutty, he was quite a hunter and fisherman. And it's like Worry Retke, he's quite a fisherman too.
Was he?
Yeah. Soccer, Tom Rowland, that's Pat's brother. He, I don't know how his soccer, got a crippled foot. He had polio. And then he jumped one of them gravel wagons, got his foot caught, dumped in the dump bar one time.
Whoa.
He got kind of limp. He wears a 2 size bigger shoe on one foot. In Texas, when he goes down to Texas, you can buy shoes a different size for your feet. But otherwise, he got that longer shoe on that one foot. Kind of good friend of mine. He didn't get married very early in life, and ain't got no kids. He don't care too much for kids. Slow, easy guy. When he sits down in the easy chair, that guy relaxes when he sits down. He just don't plunk, and he just slow, easy going, mostly late for appointment. Soccer. Pudgy, that's Pat you met yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, he got an awful belly on him now. And Dip, you meet Dip?
Yeah.
Gosh, she's, oh, God, I don't know how she got that in 20 years or less. Gosh, she just, her husband died a long time ago. Keen. And Pat is Edmund Rowan and her dad.
All right.
Frank Roy, Spiv, from Somerset. He was a iceman in town with a team of horses one time for Katie Spike. You know, they'd have a pair of ice tongs and a big leather thing on their back, rubber thing on their back with a pocket in it. So when you carried the ice in the house, but the ice melted, it'd run in that pocket back there. Then they'd have a sign on the window, 25 pounds, 50, how much ice they wanted. And then they'd bring in. And if you had a beer or a jug in there, they were all good drinkers, some icemen. Then you get outside, I can see it yet. They'd lift that up and pour the water out when they get in the back in the wagon. And last they had trucks. That was a heavy job, hot weather, you know. Ice don't help things sometimes, that damp. But they were all drinkers. The boozer, he made 2 trips to my mother's house that one day. He said the next time he saw her, he said, guys, why don't you tell, instead of front of the women he was here once before, just say we don't need any today or something. Spiv. Then he had a restaurant side of my barber shop when I was after the war, because Asp started it, and then Billy Retke started it, and he died. He was just 21 or 2 or something. And Spiv, he was a big fat guy. God, he must weigh about 300 pounds. And that thing was getting so bad shape, that building. God, the booths, you sit a cup of coffee, they'd lean. And when I was there, I wore overshoes in the winter a lot of time cutting hair. It was so cold. Take the water meter out because they're afraid it'd freeze up and bust. A lot of times my water was frozen in the morning. I didn't keep too good a fire at night. It was just wainscoting and this tin on the outside, no insulation. The scouts had paper on the other side. I threw all the magazines on the ceiling I could in that empty part, in my part. I got up there. But gosh, some buildings weren't built. And there was no cesspool. So I didn't have a toilet in there. But for a cesspool, I took a 50-gallon drum, knocked the whole bottom out of it, and some holes in the side, and put the pipe through the top. And I had 11 years and 11 days, never plugged up. It was just water, in the barber shop. And Bones, that's Elmer Rice. I don't know how he ever got that name. He just died here, one of my customers yet. He was about 86, something, 7. Hiram, Arnold Rice, that was his brother. There was some farmer or something by the name of Hiram or something. Then Barratrax, he was the big shot down at Anderson's.
Harold Rothschild.
Yeah. He had the damnedest walk. They call him Barratrax. Bussy named him that. One time we was hunting up north, hunting ducks. Here comes Harold. Darndest guy, he knock over everything, you know. Clumsy. Good guy, but he couldn't do nothing right, you know. He never swept the floor, he said. You know, he always had a laugh. He had a housekeeper there. He'd be eating dinner all alone, white tablecloth and all set up. And he wanted something from the kitchen, he'd ring the bell. Maid would come out. Gosh, I said, why don't you have her eat with you? Oh, no. I felt more comfortable somebody to eat with. I was used to eating with kids and the wife, and they always spilled something. You got any kids? When they're one age, they're bound to spill something. A friend of mine here a while back, I went, first thing he tipped his plate over on the floor. Next thing he had a plate of spaghetti, he tipped that upside down on the floor. There was always something when you got kids. Belton Rickers, Porky. When I started work at Anderson's, June 11, 1926, same day at noon. Dad came home from work, so you can start.
Pork
He's
Rickers.
a big fat guy. Dan Ridgway nuts. They always thought he was nuts.
Was he?
No, I guess now you got to be foreman at Anderson. Some of them they claim are. Here's one, Philip Samuelson, a dentist called Slick Sam.
Why?
He was on the fire department. That siren blow, he didn't care how many was waiting or in the chair, away he'd go. And some days, one day, I came to work on a Saturday. A woman from Green Lake, that's about up Lindstrom here ways, and she said, "Gosh, I suppose you see Sam?" Well, I said, "He never works on Saturday." Well, he said he was coming down. I said, "I'll call his wife and see." I called his wife. She said yes, but he didn't want to. He wanted to go hunting. Don't tell her that he's going hunting. He was a damnless man. He wouldn't care for. One day, a Wednesday, I made an appointment. I didn't work Wednesdays,
Right.
so I came. I had an appointment at noon. I came 2:00. I got to 2:00. He says, "You're just in time."
No, don't turn that
No,
on.
no.
No. It's for the noise. We turned on in between tapes. That's all right.
Fan would work
No,
better?
no, you got that's.
We're fine.
He says, "You're just in time." I was 2 hours late. He was that much late on appointments. You could come off the street and say, "Sam, I got a toothache." "Oh, come in." Somebody be sitting waiting for an appointment. He wouldn't care. Then his wife claims he was stepping out, but I doubt it. And they was coming down to his kitchen. It was about 3 steps. She caught him with a shotgun.
Whoa.
Killed him deader than hell right there.
Oh my God. When was that?
I could look
Roughly. Roughly.
Oh, must be 25 years ago or more. God, that was quite a shock to town. And he was a great guy with scouts. Cut down trees. People would be lost up in the woods. He'd go up. He'd make a raft. My boys were on the Explorer Scouts. They made a raft. They floated it down some river up north out of poles, 40 miles. Then he'd go up north and he'd take my little motorcycle. Bob, he'd go along. They'd take the motorcycle along. If a truck broke down, they had an old truck I wouldn't go here to Stillwater with. I had an old Plymouth. I give them parts of the generator and that to put on it fit. And they took a trip to Alaska. They was gone for 3 weeks or a month. They drove that old truck. My kid, he was 17. They had him driving nights. They had a layer there. Old mattresses and my motorcycle there. If the car break down, they'd go to town for parts. They got up to Alaska. They got in the Air Corps. They slept in the Air Corps barracks 2 nights. Then he hunted bear, elk. They got an elk and a deer, I guess. And he was pretty careless. God, he'd burn or fall off the fire truck. That white jacket would be hanging on the back. And then they went up to Flambeau Rivers. My kid they left see how they did they? Oh, they left the motorcycle and their sleeping bags 40 miles down. And they took the truck up with the canoes. They canoed down. Then my kid took the motorcycle and Porky Bell. They went up and had a plank. They drove the motorcycle on the truck, and they drove the truck down. He was cutting trees, and he shouldn't have been the dentist. He should have been just with the kids.
Yeah.
And she never got. She got a little time after they threw her in jail right away. But she got out of it.
She did.
Yeah. God, people didn't go very good against town. God, she just caught him right when he coming down them steps. He's good-hearted, you know. If you had an appointment, that didn't mean nothing. If somebody, good friend of his, or you say, come on, Slick, I got a tooth here, I got to do, come on in. Slick Sam. God, I know this porter, Gumshoe, he came with a clothesline, tied a rope around his ankle and to the chair. He says, you'll get away from it. Didn't bother Sam, you know, you're going to assault him. Albin Sandberg, Sandy, he was a stubborn Norwegian. Didn't get married till way late in life. Wasn't much, he sang in the church choir a lot. A kaput, Bun, is Ben Sandberg, his brother, he was a honest guy I ever saw. You know, he'd be drunk, you'd come in and you'd shave him. You shave a guy like you'd get the barber's itch or something. God, I was so mad I stuck the shaving brush right in his mouth and wiped him off and said, get out, come back when you're sober.
No, okay.
He'd come back. God, he always, funny he never got, wasn't a very well-built guy, but funny somebody didn't pound him anyway. Sims, Fred Seeger, he was quite a witty little guy. And Harry Seeger, Jiggy Barb, he was a barber, old barber. Way before I came in that shop, God, I guess maybe 50 years before I got that shop by the Greystone parking lot. Jiggy Barb, I always heard it.
Did you know him?
Or
too young?
Too young.
Yeah.
I never. Robert Selb, he was a night cop too, Fatty. Call him Fatty Selb. His dad was that way. Call him Fatty too, I don't know. You could get him mad too, call him Gumshoe. David Spike, Ramar. I don't know what that even means, but he was an awful character. He had a job at Anderson. He'd welcome all the salesmen and that, take them out, eat and drink, and he'd get just as drunk as anyway. He had to take him off that job. Smoothie, my brother Tom, kind of a smooth talker, and just a smoothie. Ray Asp named him that. And a chin scraper.
Who's that?
Walt. I had worse name.
Now, who gave you that name? Did we get
I think
that
George
before?
Bell probably did.
Mhm.
Chin scraper.
All right.
Dull razor and everything else. See if they could get me mad. No use getting mad. Don Swartz, Gubby. I don't know where he got the name Gubby. He was a house mover. Moved houses. He was moving a house. This Bob Paulsine was standing on top lifting up wires and got a hot wire and burnt his arm off.
Whoa.
The kid, he's still around. He caters to him and his wife caters to the Legion some.
Mm-hmm. We skipped one. Skinhead.
Skinhead.
Lloyd Swartz.
Lloyd Swartz. He had the hardware store. He was a salesman, bald-headed. He's got the wig now, and the damnedest looking wig. You know, some look good. If I had a wig, I'd want a good one. I wouldn't want a. They call him big nose or skinhead, or he gets mad when you. He's mad most of the time about something anyway. Skinhead. He's got that house. They're building that new station right around him. Oh, they was building on his property. Oh, God, they went round and round. I mean, digging on his property. The guy said it was his. So they finally got the surveyors again. It was on Swartz's. Then the guy on the other side, you got to cut that old tree down. I don't want that old tree on my side there. Come to find out it was his tree. Now he don't want it down. I want to deal with him. Blackie.
Okay, we got another tape change. Where were we here?
By Blackie, Homer Simonson.
Right.
He, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is right with him. He's quite a cook. Since he retired, he bakes pies all the time.
Oh, that's right. I've heard about him.
Yeah. Any doings, he'll bake pies. Gives all the girls a pie out of the bank. He brings a bunch down there.
Uh-huh.
Once in a while, if you want a pie, bring it here. I got him mad when I first sold a shop. He said, you know what I did? I brought a pie up to Val, the new barber. Kelly liked it. Thanks a lot, I said. Never got a pie from you. He said, come on down, I'll get you one. I said, hell, I will. If you deliver his pie, you're going to deliver mine. Next day, he brought one up. Here's your damn pie. He was my adjutant in the Legion. He gets so mad at you, never going to write another letter for you or nothing. Next day, you'd buy any drink or eat. Got married twice, had trouble both times. He cut a...
Okay, here comes the shirt here.
There's a squirt going by.
Yeah, bring it in, Muriel. Walt, so show us the shirt. Hold it up to the camera. This is your bowling. Oh, you guys stay seated though.
Oh,
Stay seated, right? And just hold it up sort of in front of you. Walt's Barbers. There's Sevier with the shaving mug and now who did the embroidery and all that?
the company we bought it from on Rice Street.
I see. And you said, now let's see the front here. Brandy on the rocks. That was your drink?
Yeah. Everybody had their drink on the pocket. If you go out of town, what you're drinking, we just point to our chest.
And everybody had a different color combination.
Yeah,
is that right?
every one was different.
Hold the whole so we can see the whole front up.
Let me get a hanger.
Here. Yeah, that'd be good, Muriel. Get the hanger here.
Yeah, give it.
And so when was this team active, Walt?
From when the bowl alley started, I just can't the date. I could
I
look
mean,
at
was this 50s or in the 50s?
it must have been the 50s till one of my guys died and one quit. Then the other guy,
Right.
then my team folded up.
There we go.
Pete first had a team.
Take a quick shot of the back.
Yeah. No, that's all
No,
right.
it's-
We'll just.
So wrinkled.
No, we got the back. That's all right. We'll.
Yeah. Looks terrible.
Where's the tie for the?
So there were 6 guys on the team.
7 we had.
7
At
altogether.
that time we had that 7.
Uh-huh. And you were telling me something about the low man.
The low man was out that night, and he had to sit out. Then a night, no, there were 6 men on the team.
Yeah.
Because he sat out that night, and when he bowled, next he had a skunk hole in his nose. There's a little emblem we pinned on the back.
Yeah.
He wore that.
And what is
I
it?
stunk last week. That's it. I stunk last week because he was low man. He had,
Hair in the back? Hair in the back?
Now let's see the back again. No, it's fine, Muriel. It's fine. All right.
wasn't too alike.
Here we go.
Just throw it in.
I'll hang it.
I always kept that shirt. Some of the guys kept it. Some blackies he claimed for it. One of his wives kept it.
Okay, on to Burhead.
Burhead is his brother, Dick. I
Right.
think you
We
interviewed
did
him.
talk to him, right?
He always had a short burr haircut.
Right. You cut his hair too?
Yes. Where the heck are we here?
Then Melvin Solheim. Minna. See where we are? Under the S's there? About halfway down.
Oh yeah, Minna, up here.
Yeah.
Minna Solheim. He was one of the machinists down at Anderson's. I don't know how he got that name. Harry Syme, he was in the Navy way before the war. They call him Sinbad the Sailor. Like I said, quite to see a man in uniform them days. There was no war between the war right after the Second War. Well, and Yodi, Shalander, I don't know really,
That's Dennis.
Dennis. And Don Shalander, Jocko. Don't know that, they're brothers. And Ernie Smith, Hunts. I really don't know him neither. I mean, I knew him. I cut his hair.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a deal. I always cut his hair, and he died. And he needed a haircut, and his wife called me up and said, "Would you go down and mortuary and cut Ernie's hair?" I said, "I don't know. I never did. I don't care about it." She says, "Gosh, please just do it, because you look so bad. You go. He never was that bad, you know. But it just." She said, "Would you?" Well, I said, "Okay, I'll go down." I went down to Simonette's, and I talked, and I said, "Geez, Loretta wants me to cut his hair." I said, "I never did cut a dead man's hair, and I don't care about it." He said, "Oh, I can just trim around the ears and make it look like I would never know." So after the funeral, she called me up and thanked me a lot for cutting his hair. God, I didn't know if I should lie or didn't. So I said, "No, you don't owe me nothing." She wanted to know. I said, I'll do that for nothing. And, oh, God, she thought I was the most wonderful guy. And I hated to say I wouldn't cut it.
Yeah.
So she married again, see. Or her second husband died, too. But, gosh, at that time I felt, what should I do? I didn't want to cut a dead man. I guess I would. But I think of it.
I wouldn't want to do it.
I don't know. I don't think I'd like it at all. And Archie Stenlin, where J&R, cafe there,
And
NJ's.
Mhm.
That was a grocery store. It was an old saloon. His dad, Pete Stellan, had it. Good, clean store. Good. Archie run it, and his two homemade sisters. Archie was all a bachelor too, and they wouldn't cheat you, but they wouldn't give you anything either. They'd break a cookie in two to make the scale come out right. You know, they wouldn't. They were honest. You know, but they never had a bill. I don't think anybody ever stuck him, because he never would give anybody credit or nothing. And they always called him Stinger. He was stingy. He was a good, clean. They had money and just been a good. And Herbert Stevens, the Buttercup, that was Pete's head mechanic for years. He was greasy always, hands never, barehanded, and never. Some of the mechanics take stuff to keep their hands. Years ago, they didn't have good soap or anything to clean it with neither. Bowie, Lawrence, his brother, I don't know, he was a bootlegger too. I don't know how he got Bowie. And Chink Stevens, he was the youngest one. They lived right next to me, the folks did.
That's Richard Stevens.
Richard, and they had a big family here, girls and boys. Lindy Swanson Jr., or Herbert Swanson Jr., Lindy, I don't know where he got it. He died in a car crash, but he's got a boy cop named Lindy too. They Oak Park Heights. They let them take their dad's name. That boy is Lindy now too, a younger guy. And Herbert Swanson Sr., that's their dad. They called him Stoney, and then they call one of the other boys Stoney too sometimes. I don't know, just Charles Spangberg, Spang, they call him. He was a salesman for Anderson. Spang, for Spangberg, I suppose. Ronnie Sockness, Bar Sody. I really don't know. He was worked for state lot, fire inspector. Here's one, Melvin Sockness, the Wind Puff. Windy guy, lie. He was a salesman. Never worked. His wife said, "Poor Melvin out there fishing in the sun or ice fishing in the cold. I feel so sorry for Melvin. He's fishing. Should be working." God, she kept him, kept the family going. Then Alan Sockness, Bad Moon. He made Bad Moon too. He kept his in a well. You go there at we dug well, and a rope on a big bucket and the bottles and that, and kept it cold.
Where was that? Where did he have his place?
It's right up from Pawnee's, a block, in that next to that duplex up there. It's on 5th Street. Bad Moon. He was in a Shad, Norman and Shattuck. He had the grocery store next to me for a while. Shad, I suppose for Shattuck.
Yeah.
Augie, Jim St. Marie. Poor guy had something. That family was all got crippled when they got older. Johnny, he was the only one that wasn't crippled. He got polio at the same age as my oldest boy. He got polio, I say, was about 13, 14 years old. And he finished high school by telephone. And he sat in a wheelchair, and all he could do was wiggle his toe a little bit, the right foot. I used to go up and cut his hair. I'd pick him out of bed as like a bunch of matchsticks, you know. He was just so skinny in that. Then he got so crooked. Then they put I don't know, something plate in his back so he had to sit straight. Got to be a lawyer. And his lawyer in Minneapolis for the Hennepin County. I didn't see him this Memorial Day, but every Memorial Day he comes down, he's married. He had to keep somebody around the clock, 4 guys when he went to university. 8-hour shifts and an extra guy on weekends. And he, smart as a whip, but he just, and his arm fall off the armrest, you have to pick it up. God, it's hard to see, boy. You know, you just admit it counts your blessings when you see something like that.
Yeah.
Same age as Bob was. And Earl St. Ree, his dad, Curly, they called him. And his sisters got that way. His mother got that way. I don't know. They didn't have polio, but they had this kid all crippled up. Then Art Thompson, cotton. White hair, like cotton, fuzzy. And Kohler, I don't know how Kohler, these are brothers.
Walter Thompson.
Yeah, Walter Thompson. Kohler, he worked at Anderson. Art did too for a while. Cook, he was a salesman, Edwin Thompson. Came in the shop one day and got a haircut and shave. And then when he lived in the city, I don't know what he was selling. Lay down on the davenport and went to sleep, and I woke him up. He said, I said, you can't sleep in there with other people coming in. Well, I can. I was born and raised in this town. Boy, he had guts. And Harry Thompson, Fluky, he was a junk man. He started with an express wagon, and then he got a Model T and used that. Remember, he come down that hill where the Miller boys lived. He straddled a tree, and he couldn't get it back. He came down the ponies, and bunches had to go up and push him back a tree. The wheels straddled it. And reverse and Model T weren't too good. And then he got a truck, and he finally sold out to Joe Junker. Jim Junker and so on, a big garbage man. He's dead too now. Chuck, his son, Harry Jr., they call him Chuck. And, well, skip one. Then there's Charles Thompson, his brother, they call Skip. You'd think they call Charles Chuck.
Right.
That's how their name. Then there's here George Thompson, Butch. He worked for the butcher, same when she did in later years. And he was a drinker too. And old Butler got sick, so Mrs. Thompson come down there and kind of watch him that he wouldn't be drinking. But he was getting drunker that day. Never left it. And she saw the string in the pickle barrel. She pulled up the pickle barrel, the string out of the pickle barrel. Here was a pint of whiskey. That was George. He's one. When he get drunk, he gets shaky, just all loose, you know. And Gary Thompson, that's Fluky's. That was Butch was George Fluky's brother, and them kids. Then there's Gary Thompson. That's Taterbug. He liked potatoes so good. More taters, Dad. More taters. A Taterbug. Little short, fat guy, and he always a muscle builder, and he's so muscle bound that he just can't walk. Diz, Burnell Thompson, they always called him Diz. And his boy Wayne, they call Labor. And Jerry Thompson, his other boy, they call Crazy Legs. I know some people, when they run or so, his legs are all. George Thompson, Curly, not relation at all to the other ones. He had real curly hair.
Mm-hmm.
It was from First World War I. Then there's Irving Underwood, but he went by Underwood and he went by Moyes. Moyes was his uncle. His aunt and uncle raised him when he was a kid. Folks died young. And Sweeto, he was all kind of tricks. He was in that ice business,
right,
with Slab and them. He was good-hearted, had that grog shop. Then there's Lack, or Alex Underwood. He was an old-timer. God, he worked till he's 80-some years policeman. That's when he walked in town here. He walked years before my brother-in-law and Selb and Farsted and Porter got on. He'd cut the lawns, cut the weeds and have a cane. He was stopped by a stop sign, the car went by, he'd whack it with his cane. He was a tough old guy. He had two families, really, with the same wife. One was a lot older than the other. About 6 of them older and about 5 younger. Maybe 15 years younger. I don't know how it is. He raised the Boozer and Fuzzy and that bunch. Lack, he had a suit and a white shirt and a hand-tied bow tie and a hat. He was tough. He didn't drink, but he was tough. Us kids, we'd go in this end of town and holler. You could hear him coming on a still night. And then we'd have another bunch and they'd holler and he'd go back the other way. If he caught you, he'd give you a good drive in the hind end.
Is that right?
Darn right. He didn't care. He should be doing something. He was. Well, then it was a Fred Thompson, Pussy's dad. He was the lamplighter, they used to call. I didn't know him at all. He lighted the street lights. But Lack, he had whole control. He did the rest. Then he had a jail here, where the fire hall was a little cell about fourth as big as God didn't know, fourth as big as this. They'd throw a drunk in there, and the cop would go home that night. He could get sick or a fire start. That was awful how you didn't think nothing of it. Now you couldn't do that.
No.
That little jail is there yet in that courthouse there. I know they had burmasters. He was always in jail. But old Al and his son Walt or his son Russell, God, they were all in that jail, I guess, one time. Us kids used to go and talk to them jailers, see if you can get something to drink for us or something. Smokey used to be in there a lot, too. Us kids thought that was something. They go, the bars open the windows, but God, it must have been hot in that darn old building. Black, and then Potsy. God, I don't know, Clyde Underwood. He never worked. None of the Underwoods did much work. I don't know how they got by. He was single too. Clyde. Potsy. That's Lack's son. And Fuzzy was Lack's son, Mark Underwood. He worked a little. And Starchy, Alan Underwood, he worked for Nelson, building just rough carpenter work. And he didn't do much besides that ever. He was drunk all the time. Starchy, that's what he was. Drunk, he'd go for a week or two, then he wouldn't eat. Potsy never eat neither. Sweeto, he'd eat a chicken dinner, and then he'd eat a steak dinner. That's what kept him going, I think, eating a lot when he was drinking. He stayed in pretty good shape. But Potsy and Starchy and the Boozer, he worked a little more. He finally got married when he was about 50.
What was the Boozer's last name?
Underwood.
That was Underwood.
That was Alex's youngest son. Oh, God, he had trouble. He wouldn't go to school, and Mrs. Allness lived in the house next, second house from Underwood's. And they wouldn't take him in the,
Thanks.
they wouldn't take him in the, and they wouldn't take him in the Bayport school no more. He had to go to Oak Park. So he had to walk to Oak Park. And this Mrs. Allness lived at that second house. Good morning, Jimmy Underwood. Get in the house, you redheaded son of a bitch. This old man, he used to have to walk Printer to school with him. He was a mean little shit, loser, Jimmy. Well, Mrs. Allness was pretty religious and never heard something like that. And Jimmy was just a little. This old man probably kicked his hind end away all. Other Underwoods, all was drinkers. And there was a football player. He drank too. What was his name? He didn't have a nickname. I can't think of it now. But and
So Boozer was Jim Underwood.
Jim, yeah.
Yeah.
See, there was about 6, 7 girls. There's one girl living yet. That's all there's living. She lives at Crydale here. Mabel or no? What the heck is her name? God, she must be way about 90 or something. Lack, he got to be old too.
Did he?
He was a cop till he's 80-some years old. He wasn't scared of anything. Was a fight, he'd walk right in it. An old guy, old lumberjack he was.
Okay, well, that's August.
Oh,
How do you say the last name?
Udick.
Udick. Marty.
Barty. He had his dad had a rendering plant. Picked up dead horses, dead cattle, and then they'd skin them and sell the meat. Skin them. Marty, he could skin a horse in no time. Well, he'd be down there skinning the horse. He'd cut a big roast out, take this home to your mother and cook it. Just get the kids. And then they had mink there too. They had a lot of mink. The Udicks did. August. He worked at Anderson's some, but they had that rendering farm. See, now they can't have them, I guess. In Contooten, Andy Vikstrom, that was Pawnee's brother-in-law, Mrs. Pawnee's brother, little guy, tough guy. He'd get on a drunk and.
Contooten?
Contooten. Yeah, I don't know if that's spelled right. He'd get drunk and he'd take a gallon of stale beer and go to bed with it and sober up. That's what he'd sober up. Harder than nails he was. Vern Volney, he was chief of police here. Tut, his dad was Tut Volney. He had that little store, where Mrs. Anderson got her office now.
Right.
There was a little store there. Swartz had that store for a while too, for hardware. Young Tut had old Tut, he wouldn't sell everything. He'd have 3 candy bars. He'd sell 2, but he wouldn't sell the last one. He said, I got to keep the last one. He was Kenny Vale, Kelly, he was a new guy in town. This Mike Volney, or Valigny like Volney, Moose, he's a chiropractor up north here. He was a big kid, a moose of a kid. They called him Moose. And he wasn't so fat, he was just big. Then Billy Wilmus, or William Wilmus, Pinhead, he's got a little head, Pinhead. And Don Wilmus, his brother, Colgate, one night he had a girl out and she says, "You got the prettiest teeth I ever saw." That is, she kept raving. I think Bussy or Worry says, "Let's call him Colgate." You got Colgate yet? Steve Wilson. He don't like that name, Puddinhead.
No.
Somebody just said you're a Puddinhead, and that was it.
It stuck.
I don't like to call him. He gets so damn mad.
Still.
Yeah. But his brother, Bob Wilson, High Pockets. Oh, he's a long-legged guy, and his pockets seem like they're always. You stand next to him, his pockets are higher, Just long-legged pocket. He's a good-natured High Pockets. God, he goes by that name. I guess he lives in New York or somewhere now. He was a general in the Marines or something. He got to be big, pretty good. High Pockets. Elmer Weiberg. Hap. He was always a happy-go-lucky guy. He worked at a prison. Never got married till he was about 50, and that didn't work out. And Gilbert Wire, Gibb, Emmett Wolf, Lopez. There was some player, ball player Lopez, I think, or something. Dark.
Well, there was, who am I thinking of? Didn't he play for the Indians?
Yeah, or some. It was
Remember
after.
Jim? Ball fan? Sherman Wick,
Yeah,
Skinner.
he was a musician. He worked at Anderson, but he played saxophone all the time. Skinner Wick, I don't know how he got that there. His dad, what is his name? He was from Sweden. His nose was tattooed. He had a tattoo on his nose. He was engineer down at the factory.
What do you mean, tapped?
Tattooed.
Oh, tattooed.
Yeah. I remember we had the Legion picnic, and we had Russians, green apples, and Dutch boys or something. And Russian won. His team won. They gave him a goat for winning at the Legion. Well, that damn goat stunk. God, they left him loose, and he came in the joint and chased everybody out, and they got him tied up again. And then they put him on the Anderson's truck. They had Anderson's truck to haul the beer and that down there. They put him on the truck, to haul him back, and they had him in the engine room. And old Wick was engineer, a watchman that night. He calls, come and get him out of there. He's stinking up the whole engine room. Well, we went down and got him and gave him Dutch won it. Dutch's Little Apples was. He won and his wife was at church, so we tied him in the yard. Jesus, Dutch was drunk yet, wet pants hanging on the yard, in the line yet. And after church, she called up the Legion, if you don't come and get that goat, we'll burn it down. Well, we went out and got it. We had about a 30-foot rope on it, leading it. It stunk so bad, that Billy Goat pit and all that. And we got him down to the Legion, then we didn't know what to do. And we gave him the Heine Zoller. God, that was a kind of a talk to town. I remember Myrtle Larson said we was mean to the goat, leading them behind the car. You don't see a goat ever run fast. We was pulling them along, trying. that was. And now we're down to Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
He was Benny Zoller. He was Bugsy at times. He done the darndest time. He had a paper out. He was one of these guys, just all nerves,
Mm-hmm.
He just died here a couple months ago. He stayed at Rydell a long time. Dagwood, Rye Zimmerman. Dagwood Sam, Eaton, good friend of mine. Hell, he wouldn't swear, never tell a dirty story, just as polite as. Then him and his wife got fighting. They got parted, and he swore, and he just got awful. He's just nothing but a damn drunk in Wisconsin now.
Oh, too bad.
Too bad. He said his dad was 42 when he died. He was just a drunk. And the guy he was up the last time to see us, he came here drunk, hole through his shirt sleeve last winter, through his jacket pocket, long whiskers. He always had nice wavy black hair. It's all gray now. I can't help that. But his old pickup muffler was blown, and oh God, he just went to see his mother's funeral, and his sister wished he wouldn't come. He's down there, him and a girlfriend swamping. And the joint got to get paid every night. God, he couldn't talk to the guy at all after he got going. He just went to pot. That's. Oh, everybody liked him in Legion. Him and her cleaned the last. Worked in Minnesota mining. I remember Liddy's wife, Pinky, said He had a wristwatch of 25 years. He said, when you start there, he's 24 years old. I mean, when he was 4 years old, he always looked so young for his age, but now, boy, he's about 74, I think, now. By God, he always looks so young and nice and neat. That's
it.
Our Dagwood.
That's the last one.
Yeah,
Well, that's the record of nicknames
yeah.
in Bayport.
425, I think I got there, some.
Well, thank you, Walt.
Well, yes, I'm glad to help you out.
And we'll come back and we'll get your pictures next time.
Okay. I